Hello, this is Rob Mazak, and I'd like to take a moment to welcome you to the Life by Mazak podcast channel. Here on this channel, anything is possible. Any subject will and usually is discussed, and there's no telling how this message will unfold as we work through an idea, through an experience, or through a thought. These subjects come from the vast amount of information and experience through spirit, through life lessons, and from working with a lot of other people. Scripts are never used on this channel, and the message simply unfolds as the subject is discussed. Follow along and see where it leads us, or more specifically, where it leads me. These podcasts are produced in the hopes of helping others to benefit, to grow, and to excel in their own human experience. At Life by Mazak, we work towards helping you achieve wellness for your mind, your body, and your soul using many specialized services. Services that include psychic medium and tarot readings, quantum healing hypnosis, past life regression, intuitive Reiki healing, life coaching, and many other services. If you enjoyed this podcast, please click the like button and share this with others. Our goal is to reach as many people as we can with the knowledge that is shared on this podcast channel. Good day to everybody. I wanted to talk a little bit about some synchronicity, which of course is a little bit similar to coincidence, but synchronicity is more defined as something that is supposed to line up and is supposed to help you put together or synchronize a message or an idea or a thought or something that you need to use for your life, and it gives you that revelation that hopefully gets you started and moves you in the right direction, or at least gets you started on something. Maybe it's studying a certain topic, taking a certain job, going a different direction in life, whatever. And so I don't necessarily believe in coincidences. I think that there are those outside of us that guide us. Many names for that. As you've heard in many of my podcasts, you can call it whatever you like. Doesn't matter. But I do believe that most of us would believe that there are influences that lie outside of our normal range of the five senses. So I wanted to share a little bit about that. I do a lot of podcasts, and I do listen to a lot of motivational things and metaphysical podcasts as well, articles, research. I like to understand what I am talking about, what I'm thinking, what my perceptions are lined up with, and so that I can gain more knowledge and understand whatever is going on a little bit better. And I think we would all agree that many things are happening in our consciousness. It seems to be rising or leveling up, changing, kind of going in a direction that hasn't been this way in a while. People are more aware of what's happening, what's going on. And maybe some of that has to do with our technology. I don't know. Could be very well based in all the energetic soup that we have inserted into our environment through cell phones and wireless internet and on and on and on. However, it doesn't matter how it is broken out. It is definitely seems to be happening, and that our consciousness seems to be awakening in a lot of ways. And I say that because I have listened to a podcast or YouTube of a almost 10-hour conference by David Icke back in 2014. I've listened to it on a number of occasions. And although it's, 11 years old now, it is very relevant for today. I'll put the link in the podcast information so that credit will be given where credit is due. But I wanted to break out a portion of that conference and the topic that recently also came up in a meditation that I recently experienced. And I talked about it on a podcast or two ago about a meditation journey that I had that seemed a little strange and didn't make a lot of sense. But then for some reason, synchronicity or whatever you like to call it, I was called to re-listen to one part of that particular conference by David Icke, And it's broken into 4 different YouTube podcasts or sections because there were 4 different iterations during the conference where they took some breaks or whatever. A couple hours at a time. Makes a lot of sense. So whichever one I was on, I don't remember right off the top of my head. I think it was the second part of that. I was listening to it and I heard something in that podcast that I've heard before, but it was almost identical to what I experienced in my recent meditation. Although in my meditation, and this experience is not new, I've seen it and heard it many times. For some reason, this synchronicity or this alignment really spoke to me and gave me a lot more credence for my perception, my belief, what I think is true. I'm not saying it is. Nothing I'm saying here can be proven. This is something that might challenge you to go and look at yourself if it's interesting to you. I think we're all questioning our reality and what it really is. Is it what we've been taught, a round earth floating in a dark vacuum of space, a minor speck, if that, on the grand part of the universe that we seem to know or can experience or look at? I don't know if that's true. We're also immersed in whether this could be a matrix or an artificial simulation. It could be a flat earth. It could be all kinds of things. So everybody is questioning their reality, and it's been questioned for many, many years. Many philosophers, many scientists have looked at it, and everybody seems to get something different, and they have proofs for all of that. My true belief is that if you believe in something and your perception is embedded and encoded in your subconscious and your belief system, then your mind, your consciousness will go out and find things that will support that. So your belief system will be validated for you. Does that make it true? Not necessarily. Makes it true for you, makes it true for me. So my belief, my truth is not yours and yours is not mine. It's okay. But I wanted to kind of bring this forth to talk about because it just kind of struck me as a very, very hardcore synchronicity and message for me. So I wanted to first share a clip of part of that meditation for myself, and I will follow that here in just a second, and then I will put in the excerpt of the portion from the David Icke conference, and then we can come circle back around and talk about that. Anyway, anytime you find yourself in a structure, it generally means that it's some level of your subconscious, or consciousness, and lower levels, especially basements and things, represent subconscious parts of your mind, and higher levels, more conscious level or higher consciousness. And so you can kind of understand how that might go together. I'm not saying that's what speaks to you, but for me, that's what it has kind of equated to. So I found myself kind of in the middle part of this building, and it was very, very interesting. It was find myself walking into this place, but I found myself in this dwelling or in this structure, and it was all metal on the inside. And the walkways, the stairs, the doors, everything in there was metal, and I could hear this weird clanking sound, like a piston that was kind of going back and forth, bang, 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 bang. And I couldn't quite figure out where it's coming from. Anyway, I walked around, I found the area where the noise was coming from, and I could see that I was informed that this was a malfunctioning generator of a reality. And it was kind of like down to the last piston almost. Sort of like when you hear an engine, a regular gasoline engine, and you hear that tick, 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 where maybe one of the rods or the lifters is bad. It was kind of that sound, but very, very loud. And I could see there was like a dome on the top. And the dome was lit up with it looked like our sky, looked like our stars, looked like all these kind of things. I did find, as I walked towards this piston noise, I did find a panel, and there was a whole bunch of controls, but I was directed to what looked like a very large on and off switch. And I was told to go ahead and turn it off. So I turned it off and it quit. And that particular dome went dark. And I thought, well, that's interesting. That could speak about a lot of things. Could speak about the fact that it may be telling me that reality as we know it is generated. All right, that's a really interesting little excerpt, I'm sure, from my meditation. And it sounds very robotic, and it sounds very new age and new, or way out there, science fiction. And maybe a lot of you people might think that perhaps I've been infiltrated or nudged by some of the science fiction and movies that are out there. But I'll tell you, I don't watch TV, I don't watch movies, none of that. Have I some in the past? Sure. But it's been so long that I doubt that this is influencing anything that I am picking up in this meditation. All right, so now I'm going to play the portion of the clip from the David Icke conference. And although there's a few extra things in there that are not necessarily included in mine, just listen to the similarities, and then we'll circle back, like I said, and we'll talk about those coincidences or synchronicities or similarities.
This is Ibn Alexander. He said that when he had his massive near-death experience, the first place he went to was very unpleasant. And to me, what he described was very much like this archontic realm that I'm talking about. He said he heard the sound of rhythmic pounding that was distant yet strong, a little like a heartbeat, but darker and more mechanical, that keeps coming up. Cyborg. Like the sound of metal against metal, as if a giant subterranean blacksmith is pounding an anvil somewhere off in the far distance. Pounding so hard that the sound vibrates through the earth or the mud or wherever it is that you are. Reptilian, worm-like creatures crowded past him, he said, and sometimes rubbing against him with their smooth and spiky skins. Faces bubbled up out of the darkness and became ugly and threatening. The pounding intensified and became like the work beat for some army of troll-like underground workers. He became aware of a smell, a little like faces, a little like blood, a little like vomit, a biological smell, in other words, but of biological death, not biological life, and whatever.
All right, as you can see, there seems to be some similarities there, although the interesting and gross hellish-like entities did not really pop up in mine, per se. Now, that has happened in other meditations for me, but not necessarily in this one. And so you guys, of course, don't have to believe me. I don't expect you to believe me, but it is interesting that we find others that seem to get very similar ideas, similar messages, similar things. And you sometimes wonder, or we all probably wonder sometimes, why some people can think the same thing when they're, years apart or miles apart, different countries, different languages, all of those things. But that kind of circles me back around to what Dolores Cannon really talked about, because Dolores Cannon was somebody who loved hypnosis and developed and used it and gathered research and information through the messages that came through her particular hypnotic type process. And it's a process that I've been trained to do, not directly by her, but through her videos, because she's not with us anymore. But it is a very interesting phenomenon to connect your subconscious to the source, or to that great pile of information, or part of the information of the universe that has everything and holds everything. And what she says is very, very interesting. And I've seen it a lot in my experience through regressing and putting people through hypnosis journeys. It has been the same message throughout, is that when those that are outside of us, the federations, the other entities, the other people that monitor the earth, this place, whatever you would like to call that are charged with not directly influencing us, like the old Star Trek idea of non-interference, allowing a civilization or a group of beings to evolve like they're supposed to without interfering. But when the earth has been in danger of, I guess danger is the best way to put that, It is out of whack. We are going amok as human beings, which is very easy to imagine. That these outside agencies do not want the earth to be affected to such a point where it also rattles the rest of existence. Because even during the time when the first atom bombs were supposedly detonated over Japan, whether that's true or not, doesn't matter. But the UFOs, so to speak, and these entities became more involved because that large of an explosion rattled existences outside of us, other dimensions, other places, other realms. Once again, can't prove this. However, what Dolores Cannon says in this particular paradigm is that when it is time for an evolvement or a way to evolve human beings or to help them along or to help them change their ways, the ideas and the thoughts and the energy is inserted into our atmosphere, as she puts it. And that those across the planet that happen to catch that thought, catch that idea, will then begin to put it into place. And it may feel like their idea, like they've invented it, they've come up with it. Not necessarily true, but that makes a lot of sense for when inventions come along or ideas come along. It seems like it's happening across the planet all at the same time. And yes, some of that could be because people are broadcasting on social media and we're connected like crazy. But this kind of thing, this kind of idea, these kind of happenings have always been happening, even before the advent of our technology. And so it does make sense that many of us can get the same messages at the same time. And if those ideas are embedded in our universe or our realm or our reality, my thought and my experience and my belief is that these ideas don't necessarily go away, that they're kind of embedded, like on the internet, for example, our internet. And you can look at our reality as if we're part of this huge cosmic internet. But in our internet, it doesn't matter what you post. You can delete it wherever you think you can delete it, but it always exists. It never, ever goes away. This is why a lot of our politicians and things that are running for office have all these things dug up from long ago, because it never really goes away. And I think that's the same for our reality. I don't think anything that's ever developed, anything that's ever inserted into our reality for the purposes of evolving or becoming better human beings or ascending or any of that actually ever goes away. I don't think that it does. And so tapping into that can happen years from when it was originally introduced. It could happen in an instant. It can happen just about any time. Because I've been given information, if you've heard my podcast, you know this, been given information through meditation journeys that don't really have any relevance for years sometimes. That kind of speaks to the fact that there's really no relevance to time in other realms. I think we, as human beings, in whatever reality this is, are bound and stuck into this boundaries and sidewalls of time. I don't think we can escape it, and it's very, very difficult to work or imagine being outside of time. And so when we get information, for example, what I just did, for me, that was basically a message, just simply put. Let's just say the first time I ever heard this David Icke thing, or this idea, was 11 years ago when I first saw this video. And it is just now coming into my meditation journeys. That seems like a very odd circumstance or coincidence. However, I think that the ideas that are put out in anything we do are actually completely and permanently embedded in our reality and our consciousness. So it doesn't make me surprised, or it doesn't surprise me at all, that this particular message could be recirculating over and over and over. And does that mean that possibly this video could have influenced what I've seen in meditation, even though it's 11 years ago? It is possible. But it is something that has occurred and been shown to me in many, many ways and many times. So for me, it actually is more of a validation of what that message was meant to portray. In other words, I think that what I saw in my meditation a couple days back, being very much the same or almost the same as this particular broadcast in David Icke, is very credible for me, and it brings great truth and my perception to an acknowledgement of this. Now, does that make it true? No, not necessarily. But I have been questioning for a long time what this reality is, as many of us have. And very interestingly, I was experimenting last night with ChatGPT and had this long metaphysical conversation with this particular, I'll call it entity, because it's kind of what it is. Supposedly it doesn't have consciousness, but oh my gosh, it is incredible to talk to artificial intelligence and the level of knowledge that it has. But we had a long conversation about artificial simulations and the ideas of it, and it seems like even something that's artificial in nature, something that was created by us to help us evolve, is also speaking about artificial simulations as if it is reality. And I'm not saying it is, but it seems to be embedded everywhere I look. And once again, could it be that everything I'm looking at and seeing is just the seeking of my subconscious to support what I believe? I don't know. But I just thought it is interesting. I bet if you were to look at your life and look at some of the synchronicities that come across, you would really be amazed at how everything comes together, how all the breadcrumbs lead to one place, and then that place leads to another. And before you know it, you have been validated about where you're going, what you're doing, how you're doing it. And if you really learn to pay attention, in my opinion, you can get everything you need from, quote unquote, that cosmic internet that's out there. The incredible amount of information that vastly expands across all of eternity. And I think that once you learn to tap into that, you can access just about anything you need. Well, I know you can access anything you need. But the thing is, as you go along and you get this information, we can't get it all at once. Even biblical scriptures talk about that. Knowing the mind of God would create great chaos. I'm summarizing, of course, but I mean, sure. I mean, if you were God or the ultimate creator, whatever name you give it, can you imagine the vast amount of knowledge and information and experience that entity, or that, I guess entity is the best way to put it, would have? And we are limited by these five senses, which is really very limited in a lot of ways. I think that if you just learn to be a little more mindful throughout your day, you would notice things that are trying to tell you things, to try to entice you down a direction or an idea that will get you started on something. And is that really your guides doing that? I don't know. It could be a lot of things that are influencing us here. If we were part of an artificial simulation, like we might be, I mean, it could simply be the architect, like in the Matrix, or somebody outside of us that is steering us or trying to get us to do things, or to try to, affect the simulation to go a certain direction to enhance the experiment. I don't know. It seems like a lot of outlandish things to think about, but I'm pretty sure most people out there do think these things and wonder. And sometimes we have to find ways to help us understand, or have an understanding, or have some kind of belief, because if you don't believe in something, you can fall for anything, right? And so some of us actually fall in line with different religious ideas, different religions, different ways of life that help us find those boundaries and those avenues to give us some kind of understanding and some kind of hope and some kind of idea about how to manage our life and how to get through all the experiences and the hard times and the things that are coming in our life. There's nothing wrong with any of those things. Everybody out there has their own things that they latch onto to help them understand this reality, or try to understand this reality. I hope one day, we all hope one day, that we'll turn a corner when we die. Well, none of us are actually going to escape that, but we all hope that when we leave this meat suit, that we will then learn all the truth, that we will see the truth. And in many near-death experiences that you hear across the internet and in books and articles. A lot of people have similar experiences about what is beyond death, or at least temporarily, because I don't think anybody's gone completely from death and come back to life. Most of the time it's, minutes or maybe even, hours sometimes, but not permanently dead to come back and say what's really going on. So now we could argue that all day long. And in some religions that is the case, of course. However, I don't know how true that is. It doesn't matter. But the thing is that we sometimes get glimpses of the other side, and sometimes we get to see what our experience is likely to be when we die and what's on the other side. And I do hope, as well as you guys probably do hope, is that this is not the end. And I don't believe it's the end based on what I see all the time through my services with people and experiences through regressions, hypnosis, and all that. I don't think it's the end. However, I encourage you guys to really pay attention in your day and see what kind of breadcrumbs are there, and pay attention to those things that seem like coincidences, and maybe take a little bit of time during your day and try to put it together. See what it's trying to tell you. And you can even go further and try to develop some type of meditation practice that will take you basically, or at least consciously, outside of your norm here in this realm, this reality, and help you see things and get things that you can't necessarily get by using your conscious mind. Your subconscious mind is 95% of who we are based on experiences and different things, but it is also that connection to the ultimate depository of information, that cosmic internet, the eternity of all. And so why not use meditation to dive into the subconscious and that connection and learn more about who you are and what you can do and who you can be and what you have been perhaps, and what you might be when you leave here. I mean, there's so much information that comes through. It's just absolutely amazing. And of course, most of that can't always be proven or shown to be somewhat true, but that's okay. It's really about you. It's about me. And it doesn't matter. It's all a personal journey. And so once again, I encourage you guys to really take the time to connect, to listen, to hear, to watch, to document things, to go look things up. I mean, our internet is so vast that you can find all kinds of things that will help you research what you've seen and what you think you've discovered. And why not? Because what else do we have to do here but to learn and to grow and to become better human beings? I think that's why we're here. So once again, I encourage you guys, pay attention, pay attention, pay attention. I also encourage you guys to go to my website, lifebymazak.com, lifebymazak.com. Take a look around. There's products, services, links, all kinds of things that are there for you guys to look through. I have a podcast page, all kinds of things that you can look at. And so I talk about a lot of experiences and a lot of things. So I look forward to working with you guys. I love to work with you guys because it helps me learn as well as you are learning. Student teaches the teacher, as well as the teacher teaching the student. So we can all come together and become a much better human race and move forward like we're supposed to, ascend like we're supposed to, and become all we can possibly be. I look forward to hearing from you. Stay strong and live your life.